Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 261, Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. We've got 3 title fights on the line on Saturday night. A great card, a fun card. There's actually some great fights that I do like that are on the prelims. So have a couple wagers in there. I do have a 5% play. It is my first 5% play I have released this year, up on Wagertalk, link down in the description if you want to take a look at it. We'll have other plays on that package as well, so take a look. But we will be talking 2 prop bets, one on the main event, one on the co-main event of the evening. Really excited, like I said, again, about this card. A fun one, a stacked one, and there is fans. So it is going to be a fun one to watch, get that feel again where somebody gets knocked out, the crowd going crazy, that energy that goes on. Really excited about it. So before we get into this one, I do want to say that I have a crazy hero parlay that I do talk about here sometimes, where I talk about on my Twitter, which basically I like to throw $100 on a massive parlay, sometimes it's 10 fights, 8 fights, sometimes a little bit further out, and some other sports I throw in, just basically a lotto ticket, trying to hit something crazy here. Have hit some smaller ones in the past, but I do have one. If you want to take a look at it, it's up on Twitter, at Kyle Anthony UFC. Go follow me over there. But I do have it up right now. I was trying to get people's opinions on this one here. It was an 11-team or 11-leg parlay. I have hit the first 7 of them, where you had Brunson at plus 140, had Trevin Giles minus 110, had some other ones in there as well. But now I've got 4 plays left, and 3 of them are all on the title fights on Saturday night. So I definitely have Usman, I got Val, and I've got Weili. I've got all the champs. And some pretty good odds there too. I think I got Usman at like minus 285, somewhere there. They have it on FanDuel, so some great pricing there. The final leg, if I do get through there, the final leg is Yankees winning the World Series. Now that doesn't sound great, but $100 pays out $67,000. Would be a nice payout. I would definitely take that. One way I was kind of talking to people is, do you think I should hedge on any of those? Do you think any of those I should be hedging out? If I do get through these 3 fights and do get the win on all of them, it would be nice to hopefully get the Yankees to get to the playoffs. The only real hedge that I think I could do, if I do get through these 3 fights and it's all the Yankees, is basically just hope the Yankees get to the playoffs. Yankees, I think, over the last 20 years, they've gotten to the playoffs 16 times, something around there. So, math is very good, and the odds are very good that they're going to make it to the playoffs, and then could maybe hedge out, put 10,000 the other way, or something like that in a series, depending on where they are and kind of what's going on. So, wanted to get your guys' opinion there. Do you think I should be hedging out any of those 3 championship fights? But we are going to be talking about here on 2 prop bets on the main event, the co-main events. But definitely let me know down in the description if you guys think I should be kind of hedging out some of those, or what I should be doing there, or kind of let it ride, which I think I'm leaning towards letting it ride there. So now let's get into, I guess, at this point, the main event of the evening between Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal. Now, obviously, this fight here is the second time they're fighting. We will be talking about the first one a little bit, but I will run through again past fights for them, kind of see what we see if one fighter can expose the other, and if it makes sense to place a wager. You've got Usman, who has moved up. Like I said, it was around a minus 285, 300. Now it's ticking up to the minus 400 range. And you've got Masvidal is plus 300, so that's where the line is currently here. And again, it's going to be a prop bet that I will be placing in this fight here. So we'll first go over the current champion. Now, 3 fights ago, he fought Colby Covington. This was an interesting fight here, I think, from beginning to end, because you had 2 guys, wrestlers, high cardio level. Both of them really like to have that output and stand, wear on their opponent, utilize their wrestling skills, kind of drain on them, and then literally melt these guys later in the rounds, later in fights. Their will goes down, their energy goes down, and they're able to kind of dictate the pace moving into the later rounds. This is a fight here where that first round that started, really both of them just went toe-to-toe, fired heavy shots. No, it pretty much was a glorified boxing match, I think, for the first few rounds. I mean, really, there was not much kicking. There was not much wrestling, grappling. It was pretty much standing at range, firing big shots. And then the first 2 rounds, I'd really say it was Covington. I mean, Covington really was, had a much higher pace, bigger output, pushing forward. The pressure was there, the volume was there, and I think that's where Usman kind of started to fall back a little bit. I'm really again surprised, and we've talked about this fight other times on the show, that I'm surprised that nobody really kind of shot for the takedown. Nobody kind of looked for it. It was really, it nullified each other, and they both stood toe to toe in exchange for the entire fight. But going into that third round is really where Usman kind of started to get his really momentum. And you had Colby Covington, who I think at that point, you never really see that guy get tired, but it was the first time he kind of ticked down his output, and you started to see Usman land. Usman pushed a lot of shots out there, landing some nice body kicks, mixing up his combinations a little bit. And again, there wasn't many kicks, but he started actually opening up some of that offense in that third round. Into the fourth round, kind of the same thing, a very close round. You had a little Covington, a little bit more of a push up on Covington's output from that third round. But in that fifth round, I really kind of had it, could be 2-2, could be 3-1 Covington, very close, where you kind of put it there. But really you saw Usman in that fifth round really start throwing out big volume, landing big shots. It really was the first time, again, that you saw Covington, almost outgunned when it comes to cardio. I mean, both of these guys are cardio machines, and he goes out there in that fifth round, gets the stoppage, drops Covington, finishes the fight with ground and pound. He goes out there, and he gets the victory over Covington. And then you've got 2 fights to go, which, again, we're going to talk about at the end, the Masvidal fight against Usman. And then most recently was against Gilbert Burns versus Usman. This was, I think, a very interesting fight. I think there's a lot to take away and unpack when you talk about this fight. Now, of course, he had changed camps, and there's a lot of talk about that. And, what's he looking to do? Is this going to be good for him? Is this going to be bad for him? Is this a bad timing that he's making this switch? Why is he making this switch? A lot of things were kind of going on, obviously, because Burns and them, they were from the same camp. We're not going to get into all of that. But what I think you did see in this fight was a massive step up in the striking of Kamaru Usman. I mean, obviously he wasn't this, his big, basically strategy, throw out some good output, out cardio, get the level change, dominate control positioning, find the finish when you can, but for the most part, control positioning, wearing your opponent, get it to the scorecards. And this was a fight here where you really saw he was very comfortable. And this was obviously really the going through this fight prior to it. Everyone's talking about, Gilbert Burns obviously has credentials, grappling on the ground, world champion. And then you've got, his striking is really elevated. He's shown power. He's knocked guys out. He's going to have the better striking compared to Usman. It really showed how quickly the level up that Usman has. Now, obviously the first part, he got the reach advantage. There was a big reach advantage. But the big part was the jab. I mean, the jab was a key part for his offense. And not only just that it was something that he was popping it out and setting up combinations, he was landing on Burns and dropping Burns and rocking Burns from a jab. And he really showed a lot of power behind it, and that set up a lot of different things. Now, against a guy that maybe isn't as well-rounded as Burns where it comes to the ground game, maybe he could pop those jabs out, cut distance, get inside, look for the takedown. But he went out there and he just kept utilizing it, mixing it up. There really wasn't much even that Burns really had going on. Besides there was the one moment where Usman, got caught. And that was, I think a wake-up call a little bit, but he did get caught. It wasn't like he was blasted. And, he did get caught a nice shot, but he came back to, which shows definitely he does have a chin, shows that he can take a shot, which he's going to need to take some shots when you're going up against Masvidal, who's going to look to land the big bombs, who has power, who has boxing, who has good striking. You're going to have that chin. So it was good actually to see that he does have the chin, that he could take a nice shot from Burns, who does have power. But after that, it was pretty much all Usman. I mean, Usman just wore on him, landed nice shots, good volume. Again, the jab set up everything, ended up getting a finish in that third round, and he defends his title against Gilbert Burns. Now we're going to talk about Masvidal. Masvidal 3 fights ago was against Ben Askren. Now, I'm not going to get into Ben Askren and, the Jake Paul situation. But to give my 2 cents real quickly, you know what, I gotta say, one thing is for sure that when this fight had came out and I tweeted about it, I like Jake Paul. I said, Jake Paul's gonna go out there and he's just gonna steamroll. And the more I think I fell for it, I think we all kind of fell for it, that, hey, does Ben Askren have a shot here? And I think maybe some of the media, I kind of started feeding into some of that and thinking maybe he's got a shot. I did not bet it. But at the beginning, I should have kind of stuck to my gun and said Jake Paul. At the point, he was a minus, I think, 130, 140, somewhere in there. And then he kind of, got up to the minus 200 somewhere range, I believe it ended at. But anyway, moral story of that is Ben Askren is not a boxer, and it was kind of a ridiculous fight. Hopefully, if this Jake Paul thing keeps going, that somebody with some kind of credentials goes out there and beats him up. But with that being said, against Askren, against Masvidal, obviously nothing to get in here either. He blasted him in 8 seconds. Knee that's heard around the world. That fight ends, so we're not going to get into that one. And Masvidal goes out there and gets the victory. And then 2 fights ago, he fought Nate Diaz. Now, this was a good fight for Masvidal all around. I mean, there was really all things that I think he did smooth. First of all, in the beginning of this thing was, were these two just going to stand and trade, stand and bang? And Masvidal really has that good volume. He definitely has great boxing, quick hand speed, great development combinations, good footwork. He is just really light on his feet, and he's not scared to mix it up, get in tight, make it dirty, and then step outside. And in that situation there, in that first round you saw, he got in tight on Diaz. And Diaz actually at this point was, not at this point, but overall, he is comfortable in the clinch. He is comfortable when it comes to pretty much he's very well-rounded anywhere he goes. He's fine standing, he's fine on the ground, he's fine off his back. He's creative, getting finishes off his back too. But this was a situation where in tight, in the clinch, you saw the elbow that came from Masvidal. Masvidal hit him with a nice shot, and then it almost looked like Diaz was looking to level change, threw a kick. That was the game changer of the entire fight. I think if that combination, which obviously is a massive part, is the biggest part of the fight, that fight doesn't happen. I mean, that part of the fight doesn't happen. The fight's much closer. I mean, the elbow gashed open Diaz, and then the head kick gashed open another spot. I think he was cut in 2 spots, pretty heavily bleeding all over the place. That was just a game changer overall. That was 2 great shots from Masvidal. From there, it was all Masvidal working, moving forward, landing big shots. Diaz, even at one point was kind of on his back and kind of laid there for a little bit as Masvidal kicked Diaz from the ground. And, it was a bad showing after that from Diaz because I think he was just so badly hurt from that first combination early in the first round. It kind of, went into the second round and third round. All Masvidal. He gets the doctor stoppage. I believe it was a 3rd round doctor stoppage. And there you have it there on that fight. He goes there and gets a victory. Now, with that being said, we've got the first time that they fought. And this was one, obviously, the big storyline on this is the fact when they fought the first time, Masvidal and Usman, the 6 days notice, and they're kind of sticking to that. Now there's been other talk that he was really fully in camp, that it really wasn't, he was preparing for a fight. So you can take that with a grain of salt. That's actually, I think some people in his camp have said, it wasn't like he was sitting home. He kind of, Masvidal fed into that. But it wasn't like he was sitting home doing nothing. I mean, he was in there. They said he was basically in camp, preparing for the next big fight for him, and he was preparing for the fact that he could be slid into this main event. So I'm not sure how much you take that, but anyway, that was part of the situation there. But he goes in there in 6 days' notice, regardless. Goes in there, and obviously that's going to be difficult, but I think a lot of people really focus on Masvidal being, hey, he took it on 6 days notice. Usman, obviously, he's in camp. That is a big part of it. If it was one guy 6 days notice, whatever that may be, and another guy who's been in full camp, of course, there is going to be advantages to that. But also the change of partner, a change of fighter is obviously really not good for Usman either. I mean, Usman obviously is preparing for a different opponent, preparing for different skill sets, preparing for a different type of fighter, game planning for a different type of fighter, and then 6 days notice changing it. And even Usman had talked about that in interviews and kind of said, like, I'm taking a risk here. I'm not just, obviously Masvidal is not some bum. It's not like he's stepping in and he's fighting some other guy and switching opponents. And a lot of fighters talk about that. The change of opponent is not the easiest thing for anybody, whether you're coming in or whether you're the guy that's been training for one guy and had one guy in your mind for the last, whatever it may be in your whole camp, and now it's changed. So that can obviously change certain things too. So with that being said, in this fight here, it was all Usman. I mean, there were certain situations where you had Masvidal kind of looking and throwing some nice combinations, but Usman is not going to stand. And this was obviously prior to the Burns fight where he really, stepped up that striking, but he's not going to stand a trade with him, and it's not going to be a sexy win in that fight where he's just taking him on short notice. He's going to look to, push forward. He's going to look for the level changes, get him up against the cage, wear on him, get Masvidal tired. Obviously, Usman is when it comes to the takedown ability, he's got great takedown ability. He's going to take the path of least resistance. So that's what he did in this fight. A clean sweep. I mean, I think he won every round. He went out there, gets the decision victory, a pretty clean victory over Jorge Masvidal, and defends his title. Now, with that being said there, obviously when you look at both of these fighters here, you got Usman, top-level wrestler, great top control, definitely like we just talked about, takedown ability. The cardio is elite level cardio, top level. He definitely, with how much of the wrestling and grappling he does, he's able to keep it going, keep pushing forward, keeping that pressure on, and that's going to always wear in his opponents. He's been able to do that. And the other side, you've got Jorge Masvidal. You got, well-rounded, obviously well-rounded, battle-tested, great striking. His boxing is up there. He's, like I say, Masvidal's a guy I'd like to see maybe against a Jake Paul, though it looked like they were friends. But he's the kind of guy where he's a great martial artist, but he has those hands and has that hand speed, and the way he comes at you with combinations, always tricky, the way he kind of mixes it up with those good body kicks and then ends up throwing some nice combinations, but that aggressive style too that he has. Masvidal has that aggressive style. You saw it against Nate Diaz where he pretty much bullied Nate Diaz around for the whole fight. I mean, Diaz is a kind of guy who's a cardio machine too. He can go out there, push out good volume, and Masvidal was able to basically out-cardio him and out-volume him, which is impressive there. Now the big parts of this, when you really break this down, obviously is the training camp. Now that's going to be something, obviously we're going to kind of see how that plays into it. Tough to cap that, obviously it's going to help Masvidal, if that's the case where he didn't really have, any kind of full camp, that's going to help him in a way. And obviously it's going to help Usman knowing that, hey, I'm fighting Masvidal. This is the guy I got to focus on. This is the things that worked when I just beat him not long ago. So that's going to help him as well too. But when you really look at a part of this as well is that when you look at it is really if he's comfortable with his striking and how comfortable Usman is now. Now he just goes out there and just runs through Gilbert Burns, who was supposed to be really a tough challenge, one of the tougher challengers, knows how he fights, all of these things. Now, the only problem that I could see for Usman in this situation is if he goes out there and he really just falls in love with his striking. He has talked about wanting to finish Masvidal in this fight. He has said this is a big part of it. He wants to go out and get the finish. He wants to get this done. He's not going to be, looking for the, I'm sure he's going to look for the takedowns, but he's not going to ride this out. He wants to get the finish. The way that Masvidal's talking about, the 6 days notice, all these things. That is where Usman can get in trouble. That is where he can absolutely get in trouble if he goes out there and he's going to say, listen, I want to finish this guy. Now, if he stands in boxes with Masvidal, that's a terrible way to go about this. Masvidal's going to have that advantage. Any way you look at it, he's going to have the advantage. I think he's going to mix it up a little bit. Of course, Usman's not going to look to have a boxing match like he did with Colby Covington, but that is where I think the only really issue that could come out of this fight. And now, when you take a look at these two fighters overall, I like Usman to get this victory here. I mean, I've said it. Obviously, I have him in the parlay. I do like him to get this victory here. The line is obviously crazy at this point. Minus 400, way out. I think the line is closer. I think this is definitely closer than the way they're having this. But I do see it going very similar to the last fight. There just really wasn't much there for me to say that Masvidal really had these any kind of moments or having a full camp. He's all of a sudden going to be able to stop all these takedowns and just stay on his feet the whole time. I don't believe that. I don't really see that happening in this kind of fight. Masvidal has a puncher's chance. Of course he does. I mean, again, this is mixed martial arts. You gotta land one, and then the fight completely changes. But this is a situation where I like Usman to go out there and grind this out again. And you've got Masvidal, who has the full camp, who I think will be more prepared. And I think that pushes you towards a method of victory play here. So what I ended up placing a wager on was Kamaru Usman via decision. That's even money. It's minus 110. I love the price here. You're getting off the big number. I think that, Usman is not a guy that really gets finishes. Now, if you take a look at his 13 wins in the UFC, which he's 13-0. His 13 wins in the UFC, 9 of those have come by decision. And then he just had the Gilbert Burns win. I mean, it's just the way he fights. It's, obviously, again, his striking has elevated him, and that's going to help him, I think, cut distance. I think the striking and the jab is going to help him be more comfortable in the pocket a little bit more, not like he wants to stay there, and then he's going to look to level change. And he's going to look to get Masvidal down. You know, I know he wants to finish, and could he get the finish from the top and work big strikes? Absolutely, that's a possibility. But I think it's going to be a lot of the same. I think Masvidal has the ability to kind of at least scramble and move around and not allow himself to sit on bottom if that's where Usman has him, and Usman's got that top control. I think that's a massive part of this. And then you've got on Masvidal. Masvidal's not an easy guy to finish. In the UFC, his 7 losses in the UFC, all of them have come by decision. So to me, it really points to getting off the big number. I like Usman to get this victory, but I also do like it going to a decision. So as my one free play, as my prop, I do like Kamaru Usman to win via decision -110. And the other one I'm going to, again, quickly kind of give out here is on the co-main event, another prop bet. It's Valentina Shevchenko defending her title against Jessica Andrade. This one here, you've got Shevchenko. She's a world beater. You've got the current line -400. It's pretty much the same thing, -400 to +300 for Andrade. Here in this situation, you've got the world beater in Shevchenko, the insane kickboxing ability, you know, top-level counter-striking. You know, there's so much to like about her, and you know, the line is kind of high, but it's validated the way that she's just been steamrolling through the competition. So you got to, you know, that's validated in some way. And then you've got Andrade on her side. She's got the power. You know, and she's strong in the clinch. She definitely is able to, you know, look for the knockouts, get the big finishes, and, you know, has that ability to kind of pick a girl up, slam her down because she is so strong. But when you look about kind of what they're both good at and kind of how this could all play out. Now, you've got Andrade, of course. She's got the big power. Just said that. Big power. That's what she's looking to do. She's not looking to pepper out jabs. She's not looking for the long run here. So with a girl like Andrade, who looks for the big power, looks for the strikes, and then you've got somebody like Shevchenko, who is a fantastic risk management fighter, where she does not allow the other opponent to really dictate the pace. She's fine, completely fine, sitting in the pocket and waiting to be countered, or waiting for the counter to come to her. She's not always going to be the first to strike. She's going to allow the other fighter to kind of come into her realm of how amazing she is at counter striking. I think that says a ton. Where she's not looking for, you know, can she get the big finish? Of course, you've seen it, you know, against Jessica Ai. She completely flatlined her. But when you look at the way that she fights, she's kind of comfortable just sitting in the pocket, looking for exchanges, looking for certain level changes if she can control positioning, chip away on the scorecards. And with someone like Andrade, who throws big loopy hooks, doesn't really set much of it up, I think that sits extremely well for Valentina Shevchenko to go out there and get this victory. I mean, it really seems well. Now, a lot of people are pointing to what happened last fight against Jennifer Maia, where it went to a decision there. You had Valentina did lose some rounds in there, it's hard to see her lose a round because she's just been so dominant. I think the way that fight went with Maia is going to be very similar to the way that this fight's going to go with Andrade. I think that, Andrade could find some success, maybe land a big shot, maybe get a takedown, find some top control, but I don't really see there an opportunity for big finishes. Valentina is another one who's just very battle-tested, has the ability, very high fight IQ, will not put herself in danger, and then even when she's in danger, she's smart enough to play defense, look for ways out, not to be stupid and get too creative when she's in bad spots. And I think the risk management part is going to be a big part of this. But I think staying clear of danger is going to push this fight further into the later rounds. That is a big spot for me here. The only spot for really Andrade is going to be the KO. She's going to look for the big KO, and I think that's why Valentina will play back. She'll look to piece her apart, and maybe in later rounds she could look for the finish, but I think she knows the only way that Andrade wins this is landing the bomb. And if she could just stay away from that, she can coast to a decision victory here. So for me here, again, getting off the big number, this is another one. I think it's going to a decision. I think this is another great number here. You're getting off -400. You're getting Valentina Shevchenko at +140 on a decision line. I think that's fantastic value. I actually may increase this one into a client play because I do like it that much. I think the price is phenomenal with a girl who doesn't really get too many finishes, and it definitely bodes well the way this matches up stylistically. So that is the way I'll be playing it there. Those are my 2 prop bets for UFC 261. If you want to take a look at my 5% play, link down in the description, and follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC. Subscribe on YouTube, like, comment, all those great things. Always appreciate the support, and we'll be back next week. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and we'll see you next time.